The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
Hello everybody, it's Mark Kelly, Chief Customer Officer and co-founder of Alldus. You are very, very welcome to the Alldus ServiceNow podcast series. And today we are speaking from two fine gentlemen from a company called Proven Optics. We have got Denis and we have got Sebastian. Denis, Sebastian, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mark, for being here.
So we love, before we jump into the work that you do at Proven Optics, is to find out a little bit more about you and your journey and experience to here. And having a chance to have a conversation with you before the podcast, you've got really, really interesting background. And we're going to start with yourself, Denis. Tell me a little bit about you and your experience and a little bit about your world at the moment.
I started my career at E.ON in Hanover, where I studied business informatics. And after my study, I worked as an ITSM consulting, and among others, I worked at Accenture. During this time, I got in contact the first time with ServiceNow, and if I remember correctly, it was the Geneva release back in 2016. In 2018, I joined Sartorius as the service manager, and in 2019, I started implementing ServiceNow at Sartorius. Before that, we had a very customized ITSM solution in Sartorius. It had incomplete and even wrong reporting, no CMDB, and implementation times, when you think of new features, catalog items, took months. After the successful project and also the global rollout of ServiceNow, I founded the IT Service Management Department at Sartorius, which I led from this point on. I was not only responsible for the platform ServiceNow, I was also responsible for the service organization and improvement in the process governance around IT service management. One of my biggest challenges back the days, of course, besides replacing the old system, was that ServiceNow had the perception of just a modern ticket tool moving objects from A to B. And until we heard from Proven Optics and we implemented Proven Optics as a customer back in 2020, and in combination with the CIO dashboard, this is how I tackled this challenge back this day.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that comprehensive overview, Denis. And Sebastian, you've got a really, really interesting background as well. Tell us.
I work currently as a senior account executive for Proven Optics, responsible for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, so for the DACH region. I'm relatively new at Proven Optics. New means just under 4 months, so just started. Before that, I was working for the German company called Sartorius, 8 years. But I think we get to this topic later on. I do not have maybe the typical CV. After I finished my school with the A-levels, I played more or less, or tried to play more or less professional soccer. And after I hang up my soccer boots at the age of 29, I started international management in Leipzig. During my studies, then I worked for MAN Truck and Bus in Munich for 2.5 years. And after I finished my studies, I worked for Continental. And from there, my journey took me to Sartorius, as I mentioned, in Göttingen. In the almost last 8 years at Sartorius, I was responsible for IT financial management. I set up the IT financial management platform. And so I was responsible for all the topics which belong to ITFM, means budgeting, cost modeling, and allocation of IT costs.
Denis, thank you for giving an overview about your background, and the same with Sebastian. If we jump into Proven Optics, a lot of companies and people won't necessarily know Proven Optics. I obviously had the pleasure of meeting your team at Knowledge 23. Let's tell me a little bit more about the solution that you provide within the ServiceNow platform, and why is this actually important for customers and companies to start using it?
So Proven Optics is the de facto standard for IT financial management on the ServiceNow platform. So we are built 100% natively on the platform. So this means we are utilizing the platform functionalities like the CSDM and also all the features which might come in the future. And one of the biggest challenges we take is that we provide, or we make it possible for decision makers, C-level head offs, to really manage their technology investments and spends, Mark. So it starts from budget, but it's also about total cost of ownership. How do you model your cost, your service prices? And in the end, really show back to the business what have they really utilized from the IT services you are providing. And Mark, there in this context, and also in context of ServiceNow, very important is the topic of AI. And of course, this is the Alldus podcast, AI in Action. Therefore, I'm really happy to also take some steps in this direction, because ServiceNow is strongly promoting this topic, Gen AI, and AI is in everybody, and every company is talking about AI. Just yesterday in the CIO meetings, I have looked from the CIO magazine, a lot of topics were around AI. And from my perspective, this could be a real game changer for today's companies. But on the other hand, when we look into companies and really in the area of IT financial management, they still work with spreadsheet. So, and they manage millions, billions of dollars or euros, depending where you are, on spreadsheet, or even isolated solution or platform solution like ServiceNow. But when it's really about utilizing this technology, you need to have the right data and ready data. And this is just more than just having the data collected. It's about how are these data points connected and have dependencies to other objects of your platform. And this is really where ServiceNow is the best tool to do it, because you have a lot of data already on this platform, and it makes it easy to connect this.
And it's an interesting one, that's because companies are using Excel. They've had a lot of success with it. They're managing that data. They can run all their queries. People are very competent in that area. However, the challenge with Excel is people have it on their desktop. They have these emails, having the files on their Outlook, where we don't know where they are a lot of the time. So information is vulnerable, which is, from a security perspective, but also they're not tapping into the potential for insights and getting different opinions. If they took their head up and looked around and saw what other companies were able to manage and leverage, they would probably gasp at the opportunity. And change is hard. So a lot of people don't necessarily want to make those changes unless they have to. Sebastian, tell us a little bit about the blind spots or challenges that Proven Optics can help support with.
Very good question, Mark. Maybe a personal overall picture about IT financial management. By implementing IT financial management into your organization, the organizations can gain greater visibility into their IT spending and make more informed decisions regarding budget allocation and investments. IT financial management overall determines costs of services and provides accounting support to ensure that your expenditures fall within your approved budget plans. ITFM is the close monitoring of all those expenditures related to IT. Means if a product or service requires the implementation of IT solution, then each part of the chain up until delivery to the customers should be financially accounted for. If we look to the current situation which we have, why is IT financial management so important more than ever? Then I would like to raise the question, or that's what I always ask the leaders, how will your spending on general information technology will develop? And 10 out of 10 will give the answer that it's growing. So that's exactly what we see. And all companies become an IT company, means IT is a centerpiece of all the organizations. And then, if I look back in my 10 years as IT financial management practitioner and also consultant, there's only one truth. The business is, they would like to see value out of IT. And if you do this with Excel, it becomes quite difficult to give the answers they would like to see and to make it transparent. And if we look to Gartner, what they, how they see IT costs developing, it's around about 9 percentage points in 24, it will increase. And at the same time, economic uncertainty is there. And it's putting a premium on securing additional budget and justifying existing costs. And that's exactly where we would like to go in, helping all those leaders focus on their outcomes and making decisions based on the data which we then will provide.
And Mark, maybe let me give you also another example on this. So as also Sebastian said, with our app on the platform, you can really take your budget item. Let's take budget, for example, and which is of course managed in a workflow the same way is what of your other apps on what you're using on ServiceNow, so that you add another layer of governance also into your financials in very important data. We should not forget that financial data is very important data, and this is the common language every company speaks. So every ITler speaks money, business speaks money. It's hard that they are communicating on another layer. But if you now take then your ServiceNow platform and the information you have, so ServiceNow provides you possibilities to manage your application, your strategic initiatives, even contracts, or all the information in your CMDB, and you can now tie this together with your financial information. And this is really where we can give much more insights, and these insights lead to much better decision in the future, which can cause that you probably save money.
Yeah, I think from businesses now, there is the pressure to do more with less. And for people listening in, you'll say, well, there's always been that pressure. But with this uncertainty around everything, you really need to do more with less. And what generative AI has shown us, and particularly with the ServiceNow platform being so effective at it, is the art of the possible becomes very, very real. We're hearing about 35 to 40% productivity gains. Microsoft are doing 60% of their coding through AI now. So in terms of companies and case studies and impact, the examples are now coming to the table. So if you're a business leader or CEO, you are thinking, how do I get involved in this? How do we become more efficient? And how do we stay competitive in the marketplace? And finance and IT projects, you want to make sure that you can show the progress, return on investment. And it's very difficult to do that unless you've got a line of sight. I believe yesterday I was speaking to a gentleman who was telling me that for every 10 projects that people are searching for to get $1, only one of those projects will actually get it. So there's fierce competition internally to try to get things delivered. And what we've learned from IT projects is majority of them fail. And when I say fail, they don't get the desirable return on investment that they want to get. So there's now more pressure than ever. Tell me about some success case studies or any types of companies. You don't necessarily need to mention the client's name, but where they've had an impact and they feel like, you know what, this has shown us the value.
Yeah, I would say we can talk about Sartorius, our former company. 2.5 years ago, we at Sartorius, we were the first customer for Proven Optics in Europe. So we were the first one who implemented IT financial management on the ServiceNow platform. Our CIO, Thorsten Müller from Sartorius, he was super cost conscious, I would say. And we had reached a point where the established Excel solution, which I built, was at the end simply no longer possible to meet the increased demand which we had. Keep in mind, Sartorius was super strong growing during the Corona pandemic. And you have to imagine there were around about 60 people who were involved into the budget planning. Everyone received the super Excel master template from me at the beginning of June, which they had to be filled in by the end of August. After that, I locked me away for 1 week and I consolidated all the Excel spreadsheets, data validation, data cleansing, and so on. Overall, it was an absolutely head monopoly on my side, which also, of course, includes major risks. What we achieved is, or to be more in detail, the Excel solution which we had in place was not sustainable. It was no scalability, no transparency, and no traceability at the end. And if you do not have those points, you're not able to gain or to create trust in the company. And what we achieved is that exactly with getting those points done, sustainability, one of the key facts, and therefore we created transparency and we created trust based to the business, which means we come to a point where we could take decisions based on the data which we have. And to give you maybe one other example, the whole process we could shrink from 5 to 2 months doing this on the ServiceNow platform. And the biggest gain, I would say, however, was linking of individual budget positions, which we have in ServiceNow then in Proven Optics, to the corresponding actuals. How we did this? We linked the unique budget item with the corresponding SAP purchasing system, and therefore we were able to get out all those informations out of SAP back to Proven Optics, back to ServiceNow, and we were able to really run a very, very good variance analysis at the end and to be able to answer all those questions. And overall, I would say within Sartorius, we were able to achieve more transparency, a faster and better process, and decision-making based on data you could trust. And overall, we increased the platform adoption.
Which, when you look at all those different impact areas, there's so many to do. And if you add one more, you can now look at the insight from previous years. You can actually make a decision based on real data that's transparent, that's consistent. And as you rightly said, if you were to leave the next day, their whole process is over with. And now you can have more consistency of people joining the firm, leaving the firm, and knowing that you've got one version of the truth that's going to help with that next best action too. If we go into a bit of future gazing, where do we see the market going? And this could be from a technology perspective, it can be from that customer experience. Where do we see it going?
Yeah, so Remark, these find now, because these financial informations, and also when you have it on the platform, they becoming more important. So for me as a manager at Sartorius, the budget information was just relevant from August to November. Then it was all done, and I completely forgot about these numbers. Now, when you have these available on your platform, this can really feed into your strategic processes. So at Sartorius, for example, we link the budget information with the demand process, so we could really give approvals and can do reports based on how demands develop and how is the budget plan for this. And I see really this platform thinking and people really moving to a platform. This is really one of the key success factors in the future, that you not have just your data stored in different locations. Of course, then you say, yeah, I have digital data. Yes, sure, but they are really spread among different tools. So to really gain the full value out of it, you have to be a very perfect professional integrator of data. And does really companies and ITs want to be integrators? I don't think so. They want to be value drivers for their business. And this is really the thing ServiceNow is providing to modern companies, that you not only have just data isolated, now they are interlinked between each other. And this is really what you also said about millions of data in AI. It's not about just having a data record. It's how is this data record connected to other records? And this is really, ServiceNow is the perfect place to be for this technology.
Sebastian, any thoughts on that too?
I would say it's exactly that what Denis mentioned. And as I mentioned also at the beginning, IT is the centerpiece of the organization, and you need to have your data in a position that you are able to give answers, to really trust your data and to make decisions based on your data.
And maybe one thing to add, it comes now into my mind. Sebastian said that IT investments are growing over the next years, and also Gartner showed this. And if now getting more and more money is put into the IT bucket, the potential to save money is now, it's much bigger for companies in the future. And our tools really help to understand how this money is really spent, which dollar is providing which value, and then really companies and C-levels are in the driver's seat to decide, are we going to spend this or are we going to really save this dollar? And this getting more and more important as much money you put into this bucket. And therefore, I guess also our company and our suite with the value we bring to companies getting more important for companies.
Yeah, brilliant and great insight. We could discuss this all day. And from making the move, you've eaten your own dog food in terms of you see the value, you brought it over, and you want to help people and customers go on that journey as well. How can people find out more about Proven Optics and reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can find us on LinkedIn. You will find Proven Optics also on ServiceNow, because ServiceNow made a huge investment in ServiceNow, so that makes us a ServiceNow portfolio company. So reach out to your sales rep, to your account executive, or directly to us. We are very known in the ServiceNow ecosystem, so feel free to directly contact us. We are happy to answer a question and give you also more insight. I guess this podcast is limited on time. We can talk about this multiple hours, but if we really are happy also to listen to your unique scenarios, reach out to us, and we are happy to give you more insights and details.
Denis, Sebastian, thank you so much for spending some time with us today on the podcast.
Thank you for having us, Mark.
Many thanks, Mark.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.